Talk a little NBA with Chris Mannix, NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 live sports talk network. Listen at NBCSportsRadio.com. Download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Chris, welcome back. How are you, pal?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Well, I was off the last 2 days, and you would think that the sky is falling in on the 76ers. A lot of people very angry. The coach needs to be fired. They're an absolute failure. So, overreaction or eyes getting a little wider on the processors?
I mean, look, I think it's a bit of an overreaction. My expectation for this Sixer team coming into the year would be it'd be a good year if they can fight for that number 8 seed, and I think that's still very realistic. They still haven't seen anything out of Markelle Fultz, who they wanted to get into the rotation this year. Ben Simmons is basically useless offensively outside of 10 to 15 feet, and Joel Embiid is in the lineup a lot, but he's dealing with some stuff right now that's caused him some problems. So I'm not going to overreact to inconsistency for a team that's effectively playing its first full season as a unit. If they start to crater a little bit and they get blown out of games, maybe we can have a different conversation. But the expectation should be set at making the playoffs in a weaker Eastern Conference. If they do that, I think that's a successful season.
How much, first off, the Embiid stuff, does this worry you at all? He had the back problems in college. It's kind of popped up. I was told the other night, I was at the game against Sacramento. I was told it was very precautionary and it was kind of described that, well, if they weren't playing the Kings, maybe they try to play him. And now it's lingering on a little bit. So does it start to concern you a little bit if they're picking and choosing when they want to use him, or that if it's lingering around, knowing that he had that back issue that kept him out of the NCAA tournament?
No, I mean it's not. It doesn't bother me all that much. I think they've done pretty well with managing some of these injuries, to the chagrin even of a guy like Embiid at times with the not playing in back-to-back. They're cautious, and they should be cautious with all of these guys. I mean, as much as we like to kind of hit the fast-forward button and go into their mid-20s, it's and I hate using this word down there, but it is a process, and it does take time to develop these guys. I mean, they're enormously talented, and if you're asking me which team I would buy stock in for the next 10 years, it's probably Philadelphia, given what they're going to be 4 or 5 years from now, assuming they pay the price for these guys and all these guys stay healthy. But this year needs to have very managed expectations, and these players, I think, because of their injury history, they need to be managed pretty properly.
Chris Mannix, NBC Sports Radio. The coach is getting a lot of heat. Do you look at him and say he's not done a good job? Is he in a tough spot? It's a very polarizing discussion down here.
No, I mean, look, I think Brett Brown's done an excellent job. I mean, I'm not just, puffing up a coach, but, I mean, these are impossible circumstances that he's being asked to deal with on a regular basis. I mean, just, from losing guys with injury to trying to, develop guys that are like their last competitive games, prior to the year before were out of high school. I mean, it's just, he's really done a good job, I think, of establishing a winning attitude in that locker room. Now, winning games is going to take some time. Like, if you look back at all the great young teams that rose up kind of as a unit, from Oklahoma City to the Lakers even, their first couple of years, they didn't win close games. It takes a while for these teams to learn how to win, to be comfortable in end-of-game situations. I thought that being in Philadelphia periodically over the last few years, I thought Brett Brown did an excellent job of just maintaining kind of a winning attitude in that locker room. And look, that's not easy. I mean, look at Phoenix right now. Phoenix is a dumpster fire. Like, Phoenix, I don't think they have a culture at the moment. I don't think that Philadelphia's culture is great necessarily. They're not all the way there, but I think they've got the foundation for one, and that's a big credit to Brett Brown.
Hey, Chris, the Simmons thing, I mean, everybody was, the first month of the season, this guy's great. I mean, and he's the next big thing. Teams obviously watch tape. Are you concerned that he's got some, I don't know, was it a mental block, that he doesn't want to shoot the ball because he thinks that he's not, on that level yet? I mean, here's a guy who has a lot of pride. Does he feel like I can't shoot because it doesn't look good, or that I don't think it's going to go in? Like, that's going to be an issue if he doesn't start to shoot. The other night he came out, hit 2 jumpers right off the bat, and then that was it. He took 6 shots the whole night.
Well, I mean, like, he's not shooting because he can't shoot, and he's not very good at it at the moment. But I tell you, the least important thing for a rookie right now, I shouldn't say least important, the thing I'm least worried about in any rookie player is inability to shoot the ball. I mean, very few players, especially these one-and-done guys, very few players come into the NBA with any kind of polish on their perimeter game. What Ben Simmons has is a unique passing ability, great court vision, an ability to get to the basket and create, and an ability to finish too, like with his athleticism. Look, he's got the best coaches in the world that he's going to be able to work with every offseason to reconstruct that jump shot. A good example is Kawhi Leonard, who came into the NBA a terrible jump shooter. He was basically a power forward when he was at San Diego State, shooting under 30%. He reconstructed his jump shot, he worked at his jump shot, and now, at least last season, he's one of, not the best three-point shooter in the entire NBA. I don't know if that's the ceiling for Ben Simmons, but nobody should be concerned by the fact that Ben Simmons is not comfortable just kind of jacking it from 23 feet at all times.
Chris Mannix with us. We'll leave you with this. The biggest issue I see is, because you went through a couple of years of this losing, the people who didn't like that, now they want you to go to 60 wins right off the bat, like 40 was. That's not what you signed up for. So they want you to go from, 10 to 28 to 60. So if you're in that 40 range, which means you're going to beat the Rockets on the road, but you're going to lose at home to the Kings, there's where that fine line, and there's a lot of polarizing discussion about things like that, where it's turned into a mess down here, man.
Look, I mean, if they got to 41 wins this year, there should be a parade, down Common Street. I mean, that's like they are, they're a team that has been so unbelievably bad for the last 4 years. If they can find a way to claw their way to 500 this season, that's a remarkable achievement, and it will be a springboard for next year. Look, we can have an entirely different conversation this time next year if they get to 41 wins, if Fultz works his way back into the rotation, if all these guys are healthy next offseason. Next year is the year that you say, all right, I want to be Minnesota this year. I want to be the team that gets into that 4 or 5 seed in the Eastern Conference and throws a scare in a Boston or a Cleveland in the second round of the playoffs. This year, it's just about making some progress. I know it's hard to see, but I mean, if you just look back at what this team was and where they are right now, a 500 season would be a remarkable accomplishment.
Chris Mannix, NBC Sports Radio, the 24/7 Live Sports Talk Network. Download the NBC Sports Radio mobile app today. Always a pleasure, Chris. Thanks so much, pal.
You got it, Mike. Take care.